All right, welcome back to another episode of Enjoying Northwoods.
All right, guys, we're going to start with a whole brisket. Unfortunately, it's going to be the first brisket I bought in a while. We normally do raise our own beef. The tip that I could give you is don't scrimp on your cut of brisket. Make sure you got a nice prime cut, if all possible. Choice cut, prime cut, or better. Just the fat layer inside the muscle itself is what makes the difference between a good brisket and a bad brisket. So spend a little bit extra money and you will not regret it, that's for sure. Well, anyways, what we're gonna do first is we are gonna trim this thing up. And what we're gonna do is there'll be a full layer of fat going across on the one side, and on the other side, it's not so much. But if there's two kinds of fat that we're going to be dealing with here today. One is going to be a hard fat, and you can definitely tell the difference, and we want to remove every bit of that. And any of the silver skin on this side, we're going to clean this right up to the protein, trim it up really nice, and the other fat, which is going to be a nice fat on the other side, is a more soft fat, and that'll actually break down. We're going to trim that down also. But any hard fat you want to take off 100%. And on this side, like I said, you want to get it right down to the bare protein, and what that does is it creates a lot nicer bark. When you have so much fat on it, what happens is that when the fat's melting down, it'll melt a little bit of the rub and the bark off. It'll actually dissolve a little bit. So this side you really want to keep clean, and the other side we're going to take it down to about a 1/4 inch of the good fat. We're going to leave a nice small layer, like I said, around a 1/4 inch on the other side. And reason being that that's going to help protect it from the electric smoker, the heating element on it. And we're going to put it down with the thicker side, the point side, down on the smoker, closer to the heating element. It's a thicker cut, it can withstand it, and that fat just helps protect it a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. The key is make sure you got a nice sharp knife. You can do more damage with a dull knife than a sharp knife. So all you're going to do is we're just going to start whittling away. And the first thing we're going to do is get all this hard fat off. And you can definitely tell the difference. I don't know if you guys ever butchered a deer, most venison, it's all hard fat. So that's what you're looking for, and you want to get that totally off. And just skin it back. That's all we're going to do is just skin this fat right off here. And let me skin away and I'll show you what we're doing. All right, we got this side pretty much trimmed up, and what we're going to do is roll it over. There's pretty much the hard fat we got off this side, and we're going to roll this over and then trim up this soft fat. All right, here is the other side. We just rolled it over, and the butcher did a pretty good job on this. But this lower portion right here, we're going to trim a little bit of that down, and just make sure we got a pretty consistent, nice 1/4 inch on it, and we'll be ready. So let me trim this up, we'll see what we get. Another little tip, when you're trimming this up on this side, you put your hand underneath it and kind of just bubble this up, and that gives a nicer surface where you can just go and get a nice cleaner instead of trying to cut down on it. And you can see the difference between the fats. This is more of a lardy fat, softer fat than that hard, tough fat. which would be more like on wild game. But anyways, we're just gonna keep whittling this down and give me a minute and we'll see what we get. All right, guys, that's it. We got her down to roughly a 1/4 inch, pretty even throughout. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna hit it with some 50% salt, 50% pepper amount. Man, is it hot in here. Almost like Texas. Anyway. Use a lot of this, especially on this fat side. This is going to be the downside in the smoker, and this has that layer of fat on it. So as that melts, it's going to rub a little of this off, wash a little bit of it off. But just get a nice amount. And I don't use no mustard on it. I know a lot of people do. I prefer everything more simple. It actually allows you a little more flavor of the actual brisket without overpowering it. I just make sure I get all these edges, and then this side, just double check it. That looks pretty darn good. And then we are going for a nice bark. That looks darn good to me. So the next step is we are just gonna let it rest with this rub on it for an hour or two, and then around midnight we're gonna head out and get it smoking, and we're gonna smoke it all through the night and a little bit tomorrow. And normally it's about 75 minutes per pound. We started with a 14 pound. We're probably close to a 12 pound now. So it's going to be quite a few hours, and I'll show you step by step as we go. So I'll see you guys at midnight, and we'll get the smoker fired up. Cheers. We'll see you guys at midnight. Little berry mixed with some corn squeezins. So anyways, we'll see you at midnight. All right. We're heading out back to the barn, or the picnic barn anyways, the pavilion. Pretty overcast, not sure if it's supposed to rain tonight or not, but we'll get this set up and start the smoker going. It's 11:30, so give me a minute. And pop the breaker for some reason. All right, let there be light. Cut me up some wood chips, smoke, and there's light. Yes, sir. All right. Here's our brisket. It's been resting. It is to room temperature, and it won't fit in there. So what we got to do on our smoker is tilt that one of the trays, one of the grates on an angle like that, and rest it off the other one. All right, we got that baby in there. You can see it fits perfectly. Point side down, which is the thickest portion, and then also we put the fat side down. Like I said, helps protect it a little bit. All right, guys, we got the brisket in the smoker. It is set at 225. We got her rubbed and treated with love. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back in 2 hours, and all we're gonna do is replace the wood chips and let all the moisture out of the smoker itself, just to help it dry out, because it will be pretty moist the first few hours. So we'll see you at 2 o'clock. All right, it is 2 in the morning.
She is still smoking. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, look at that. And let all this moisture and steam out. Oh, it is looking good. Very good. All right, let's change these chips and get her back shut. Buttoned her right back up, so we're gonna let her sit for another 2 hours, which will be 4 in the morning, and then we'll open it back up, restoke the wood box, and what we're gonna do is spritz it anywhere that appears dry on the brisket. We'll spritz it with some apple cider and apple cider vinegar. Just enough to moisten it. You don't want to wash any bark off that's starting to form, and that's really going to accelerate the bark. So 2 more hours before in the morning. We'll see you then. And we're back. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a great horned owl hooting out there. And a bunch of frogs. And as you can see, she's just starting to shrink up a little bit. And she is looking very nice. And what I'm going to do, it's staying pretty moist. But at this time, what you want to do is just spritz it a little bit where it's dry. It's a little bit dry on the top. Not a lot to, that's it. And what we're gonna do is restoke the wood and shut her back up. And finally, it is daylight. 5 in the morning. Time to make the donuts. And all you can smell is brisket. What a lovely smell in the morning. And still got her going. Ooh, that looking real good. We're gonna spritz her down. Starting to get a nice bark. I think what we're gonna do is it's small enough to put it on the tray. Put the tray upright. All right. Still smoking well. And what we got now is we just about 8:30 in the morning. And now all we do is just come back once an hour. What we have been doing, and just keeping any dry spots moist. And then restocking our chips. So we're gonna restock some chips and let her keep going. Looking awesome, smelling even better. All right, we got her right up to temperature what we want. It's almost at 180. Anywhere between 160 to 180 is what you're looking for. I made it go a little bit closer to the 80 just to create a little better bark. A little harder to create bark on electric smoker, but it does do a pretty good job. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it out, and I'm gonna put it in foil. Normally we'll wrap it in like a pink butcher's paper, and that helps, lets the moisture evaporate a little bit more, but on this one we're gonna make a little au jus. So we're gonna put in a can of beef consomme, and we're gonna add it to the bottom of the foil once we fold it, and we don't want to pour it over top. We just want it to sit on the bottom and just let it mix with some of the drippings, and it makes the best au jus. So we're gonna pull it out, wrap it in the foil like I said, and then we're gonna bump the temperature up to 275 and put it back in. And then we're just gonna keep probing for tenderness and to get the temperature a little bit higher. So let me pull this thing out and let's take a look at her. All right, she is looking absolutely perfect. So let me pull this baby out and we'll get her wrapped up. I'm gonna spritz her down one more time.
We got a awesome looking bark on this. I cannot wait. And then look at that. Whoa. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna put it fat side up, and that just looks absolutely amazing. Now what we're gonna do is I got this double foiled, and you just wanna create a little bit, put it down, a little bit of a trough, just when we add this beef consomme, it's not just going to run all over. So you just get it, crimp the corners, pretty simple. And then what we're going to do is, like I said, we just want to pour this to the bottom. And now we got that nice soft fat layer up. And what that's going to do is just run down through it. So we're going to drop this over. Let me take this thing looks just amazing. I'm gonna hold that up. And then wrap it up one more time. Cannot wrap it enough. Pretty windy. And this also, since we're going to crank the temperature up to 275, this also helps it preventing from burning. And right over the top, right over the top. And then we're also, it's going to speed it up a little bit, like I said, without burning. All right. We got that beef consomme on the bottom. Let me slide this baby back in. And we're gonna shut this up. It no longer need to add chips. Oh, Abby, she can't take the smell anymore. No need to add chips anymore because there's no smoke getting to it. We're gonna shut our little draft, and then we're gonna bump the temperature up. 275. Okay. And continue cooking. Gonna be an awesome day. All right, we're getting close. Now, really all you gotta do is start checking it, and you're really checking it for tenderness. You want the internal temperature to be between 195 to 205, and when you check that, make sure you go in between that point muscle and the flat muscle. It's kind of like the most center spot you can get, and that's where you really want to check your temperature from. Even though it might reach the done temperature, you want to keep probing it because it has to be tender. And just because you probe it, and if you probe the point muscle, that's going to be more tender than the flat muscle. And if you probe that point muscle and it's within the temperature, do not take it out until that flat muscle probes tender. And what you're looking for is basically to feel like it's at room temperature butter when you're probing it. You want it to go through that easy. So don't be fooled just in case. Just because you reach the temperature does not mean it's done, and you just got to keep checking it every 20 minutes to a half hour once you start getting close, because you don't want to overcook it, but you definitely don't want to spend all this time and pull it out a little bit too early, because that flat muscle will end up being leather. All right, well that's it. We got her out, cooked to perfection it looks like, and we're gonna let it rest for several hours now. It's awesome if you can let it rest 5 hours. Minimum, I would say, would be 2 hours, all the way up to 12 hours. Wrap it in a towel, and I throw it in a cooler, and it still slowly cooks for a little bit, for another hour or so as it's resting, and it'll be done to perfection. So we'll just throw this right in the cooler, and it is extremely hot. Let me show you. All right, we got it in the cooler, and I truly believe this is going to be an awesome brisket. I truly believe that. All right, just took it out of the cooler. Look at this bark on here. Take the paper off. We made it to the party. So what I'm just going to do is cut this right in half and see what she looks like inside. Oh wow, is this amazingly tender. Look at the juices flowing. Got a nice smoke ring. And that looks good. And what you want to do is get some grease out and just make sure you set them butt side down just so that don't oxidize while you're cutting. And hope you enjoyed the video. We're at the party, so we're going to cut this up, and we'll see you on the next one.